Yo, what's going on? Been a bit. Welcome to episode 19 of Give Me Back My 90's Music podcast and hanging with the beast. And as you can see, I'm in full mode, baby. I'm in full mode. There he is. It's one of the many pictures of Elvis back there. There's another one right there. I got one of his sayings on the wall. It's a magnificent room for all Elvis stuff as well as other stuff as well. Got some Elvis stuff over there, Elvis stuff over there. You can't see. One day I'll take you on the tour, but this episode is just dedicated. I'm doing a review for the Elvis movie. My good buddy, my brother, my little brother, Mike Mafucci, the AKA the Padawan, talked me into doing a review, and you know, it's not even 24 hours after I saw it. I saw it early access last night, June the 21st at 7 p.m. at Westbury Theater out in Long Island, stone's throw from the Westbury concert hall, whatever the hell you call it, man. You know, it's always either Westbury Music Hall, it used to be, or it's some bank bullshit. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so the theater's right near there, and I had the pleasure of seeing it early. And I got to say, man, walking in, I was nervous at first, especially going back a few months when I had first seen the pictures of Austin Butler. I didn't know what to expect. I'm still processing it, so if I'm at a loss of words for at times, it's because my brain is still going. Because I find that the movies that I love the most, that mean the most to me, my favorites, it takes a little bit of time for me to just find the words and the terms that properly can describe how I feel about it. And my favorite movies, of course, I'm talking about True Romance, which is my favorite film of all time, Gangs of New York, my God, so many others, man. No Country for Old Men. Movies like that I saw in the theaters, or I saw them once, and it took me a little while to resonate, and the more I watched them, the more they became part of, you know, my repertoire of favorite films of all time. I'm going to see this Elvis movie again, but let me say, the reason I'm doing this too on this podcast is because in the 90's, okay, they had, I actually, I think it could have been maybe in the 2000s when they had re-released the remix version of Stop, Look, and Listen, and then they released the remix version of Little Less Conversation, Little More Action by Elvis, more of a I guess, a house version or an up-tempo type version. But the reason I'm doing this on the 90's podcast, this podcast, is because Elvis is the alpha and the omega. If there was no King, there wouldn't be any music in the 90's. If there was no Elvis, there'd be no Beatles. If there was no Elvis, there'd be no Bob Dylan, no Rolling Stones, and so on and so forth. The inspiration wouldn't have been there. Therefore, the need for them to go and do what they became wouldn't have been there. So if I had a podcast called Give Me Back My 80's Music, Give Me Back My 70's, Give Me Back My, whatever, Give Me Back My 2000s, whatever the hell may be, I would still do the same thing. And I'm doing this review because, like I said, Elvis starts here and keeps going. Alpha, Omega, just keeps on going. All right, this film is a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece for various reasons. A, because let's just talk about Mafucci. Let's get into it, because there have been various other Elvis movies in the past that either were duds, or either weren't the greatest, or either were about Elvis, had some type of element of Elvis in there. And some of them I really liked. One that sticks out in mind is Elvis Meets Nixon, with Rick Peters, who was an Elvis impersonator, who does a phenomenal job of portraying the king. And it's kind of comedic. Okay, takes place, of course, when Elvis meets Nixon. I really enjoyed that. It's a guilty pleasure. I thought it was just very, very, very funny, very true to the real account. And then there was Kurt Russell's and John Carpenter's Elvis movie, which was a TV movie, which was very good. Kurt Russell did a phenomenal job of portraying the king, singing, dancing. For a TV movie, it was great. The great John Carpenter, one of the best directors of all time, the master of horror, and Kurt Russell's a phenomenal actor, one of the best of all time. He did a great job. In fact, the singing, or is it I think it's the voice of Elvis in Forrest Gump is actually Kurt Russell when you see the Elvis character. Yeah, it's a small little snippet. Go figure, Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks in this film. Tom Hanks portrays Colonel Tom Parker, and I'll get to that in a bit. But there have been movies about, that were based on Elvis, Elvis Law, that just never did him justice. It's sort of the same way I feel about Sirius and satellite TV not having a Johnny Cash station. You have an outlaw station. You have a Willie Nelson station, of course, much needed, much respect. You have a Tom Petty station, much needed, much respect. Why you have a U2 station, I don't understand. Why you have a Bruce Springsteen station, I'm not going to get into that. Where's the Johnny Cash station? So my point being is that for so long, we've wondered, why isn't there a movie about Elvis? There was a series with, what's his name? Jonathan Rhys Miller, I believe his name is. Very good actor, where Randy Quaid portrayed Colonel Tom Parker. Jonathan Rhys Myers, I think his name is. He portrayed Elvis. That was very good. That was interesting as a series. But for all these years, we just didn't have a film that portrayed the king correctly. And of course, it's a very hard project to do when you think about it, because you're trying to portray the greatest entertainer, singer, movie star, greatest looking human being ever, the greatest rebel, the greatest game changer in various different areas, whether it's fashion, style, attitude, putting things on up. Innovators is the correct word. How could you possibly make a film about such a powerful character who, let's see, 877 is when he passed, although Elvis, we all know Elvis never died. 87, 97, 07, 17, right? 45 years after his death, he's more famous now than he's ever been. And with this film, it's going to just shoot him into the higher and higher. How could you possibly make a film about such a powerful human being who had this enormous impact on society, not just the music industry, society as a whole? Well worth the wait. 2022, the great Baz Luhrmann, who's done phenomenal films, whether it's his version of Romeo and Juliet or his version of The Great Gatsby, which are amazing. Just amazing. I mean, going back to Romeo and Juliet, the way he updated the story and still used the old Shakespearean terminology was just amazing, with the modern guns and the modern cars at the time. That phenomenal cast with Leonardo DiCaprio and John Leguizamo and all that amazing cast. Claire Danes, phenomenal. The Great Gatsby, again, the great Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire. I mean, a phenomenal film that had so many beautiful visual scenes, the lights, the atmosphere, the costumes, the music, the cars. Who better to direct an Elvis film? The great Baz Luhrmann. Baz Luhrmann did a phenomenal job with this film. Austin Butler deserves an Academy Award. He got as close to portraying Elvis as one can do. I mean, from the dance moves to the little subtle things that we Elvis fans would know about. I'm not going to give anything away. I will never spoil anything. That's all I'm going to say. If you're a true Elvis fan, you will pick up on many of the things Austin Butler did in this role, especially in the 68 comeback special area of the movie, and in the Vegas run. He captured every aspect of Elvis, and the little things is what I was looking for, the details. One of the most important things I found, and that I'm a big fan of, is the attention to details. There's this one scene where you see Elvis drinking soda pop a couple times, and everybody who's an Elvis fan knows that his favorite drink of choice was Pepsi. It's all he's drinking in the movie. Nailed that. I'm not. I don't want to say anything else, but Austin Butler deserves an Academy Award. Baz Luhrmann deserves an Academy Award. Tom Hanks, one of the greatest actors of all time. In fact, Tom Hanks has gotten better as his career has gone on, in my opinion. Early on, you saw Tom Hanks as a comedic actor. The other night, I was watching The Burbs with my sister and my brother, and it's classic Tom Hanks. I mean, classic Tom Hanks. Splash, The Burbs, on and on, right? And then, of course, Tom Hanks takes on more dramatic roles, such as the great film Philadelphia, Forrest Gump. Then, of course, the amazing Saving Private Ryan, The Green Mile, which I can't watch too much because it makes me cry every time. I'm not embarrassed to say that. On a crying note, I will say I cried about 4 to 5 times last night during the film. Not embarrassed. Don't give a fuck what anyone thinks. I'll cry. For Elvis, shit, I'll bawl like a little kid in front of millions. I don't give a shit. It's the king, man. That's what I'm about. But can't watch The Green Mile too much. So my point being, Tom Hanks gets better and better with each film. He was the perfect person to have as Colonel Tom Parker. From the way he smoked the cigar, to the makeup, to the outfits. Academy Award should go to those involved in the makeup, hair, and outfits. Academy Award should go to those for the visual effects, for the editing. I said Baz Luhrmann for director. This should win Best Movie. Austin Butler, Best Actor. Tom Hanks, Best Supporting Actor. Don't even want to hear it. It's the best movie of the summer. It is phenomenal. It is phenomenal. It's not a movie. It's a journey. It's a journey about the human element of a man called Elvis. Remember, Elvis always talked about there's 2 different things. There's the image, I hit my microphone, and there's the man. This is more about the man. For so long, we saw the image. This is about the man. And that's what a lot of people wanted to see, the humanity of this wonderful, intricate, talented, giving, generous, yet complicated human being. It's exactly what the world needed now, because it's going to... Elvis needs no rejuvenation, because he's the greatest of all time. He's the alpha and omega when it comes to music. I'll argue that with anybody. The great John Lennon said it best. For Elvis, there was nothing. And that's the great John Lennon. Anybody who's got something negative to say about him don't know shit about music. So again, that being said, it's the ultimate Elvis movie, and it's going to introduce him to a whole new generation of fans. It's going to reintroduce him to a whole generation of fans, and it's going to do for the fans that already were familiar with him, it's going to pay him homage. And that's what Austin Butler did. That's what Baz Luhrmann did. That's what Tom Hanks did. They paid Elvis the greatest amount of respect with this film. I believe, in my own opinion, the king would be so happy with this portrayal of himself, because it shows his humanity. It shows who he was as a human being. It showed how he went through the ups and downs before he was a star, as he became a star, while he was a star, and all through. The ups and downs, the journey his character took from the 50s, 60s, 70s. It showed the hardships he had to go through, things he had to conquer. For instance, when the stupid media had kind of condemned him, or parts of the media, for playing what they considered to be the devil's music, for dancing and moving a certain way. It's about friggin' time we had a movie. I stood up last night at the end of the movie with what remaining crowd there was and screamed out, "It's about time." You think I give a shit what I look like? It's about time. It's about time. There was one gentleman in the movie theater who beat me to screaming out, "King!" at the end. I was so pissed about that. But after I couldn't tell you how many times during the film we applauded. Not just me, not just people who knew about Elvis, but other people. People were applauding during the movie. People were applauded after the movie. And afterwards in the hallway, we had a conversation about how great the film was. I told one nice lady how I'm coming back. And I will come back to see it 2 and 3 times. Because there's so much going on in that 2.5 and more hour span that you have to take it in and really pay attention to it. And the good thing about it is Baz Luhrmann announced that there's a 4-hour cut of this film. Of course, he couldn't release that in regular theaters, although I would have sat through an 8 to 10 hour film about the King. You think I give a shit? I'll cancel the whole world. I don't care if a nuke bomb goes off, God forbid. I'll sit through that. But there's a 4-hour cut. That'll come out, I'm sure, eventually. But in that 2.5 and more hours, they try to fit into that film all the important aspects of Elvis. And like I said, focusing more on his humanity, which people needed to see, which people needed to know about. Because I think the humanity became the superstar, became the image. But the funny thing is, the image sometimes, I don't want to say fades, because for Elvis it never fades, but the human is always there. That's the most important thing. And this film captures that. The musical numbers in this film are phenomenal. Again, Austin Butler did such a phenomenal job capturing Elvis, dance moves. Did a wonderful job singing. He blew me away with that. The costumes are amazing. The way they portrayed Graceland is amazing. And again, if you're an Elvis fan, you'll pick up on so many things. Elvis's grandmother's in the film, the Memphis Mafia, so many other characters. I'm not ruining anything. But it's a magnificent film. I think it's going to destroy at the box office, and it's going to win Academy Awards, and it should. It's about time. And this further solidifies what we already know. There will never be another. There are things in life, whether it's music, sports, whatever the case may be, that are just here. That are just here. In sports, we have our Jerry Rices. We have our Joe Montanas. We have our Michael Jordans and Kobe Bryants. We have our Babe Ruths. We have our Wayne Gretzky's. We have our Elvis Presley. And nothing comes close to him. Nothing comes close to him. And what a lot of people tend to forget, and a lot of people who are too that don't know, but I say immature and stupid because they speak without thinking and out without knowing their musical history and they don't know. I hit my mic again. They don't have the knowledge to understand. They don't know. They don't do the research and understand that Elvis was the first rebel. Think about it. He was inspired by so many different aspects when it came to music, that it not only inspired his music, but inspired the way he lived his life, whether it was the gospel music, the wonderful African-American musicians at the time who unfortunately were treated terribly. He was highly inspired by that. They played such a huge role in his life, and I am so happy. I thank God that Baz Luhrmann and that this movie captured that, conjoined it, which was so big. He was inspired by that. And people need to understand that. He was the first rebel when it came to clothing and style. Think about it. I heard this interview today with Austin Butler, who I'm blown away by. The more and more I just watch him as Elvis, and I just listen to his interviews. I think he's a phenomenal talent. I mean, if you never saw him before, he started to gain notoriety, of course, in the amazing film by the great Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which in my opinion is just a lights-out, knockout, badass film with a great cast like Leonardo DiCaprio and the great Brad Pitt, who won an Academy Award, and Margot Robbie, who portrayed Sharon Tate. Austin Butler portrays Tex Watson, who was one of Charles Manson's people. I remember after I seeing that film in the theaters, it was announced there was going to be an Elvis movie. It was going to be Baz Luhrmann, and he had picked Austin Butler. At first, I was really concerned. But they dominated. They killed it. I mean, getting back to what I was saying, Austin Butler in an interview said, imagine the world if Elvis didn't exist. I couldn't imagine that. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't want to be here. I mean that with everything every ounce of my being. I mean that. And again, if he didn't exist, music would have never been what it is. We never would have had the greats that we had. Style would have never been what it was. Movies wouldn't have been what they were. Life wouldn't be the same. You know, Elvis was always, I guess I could use the word conflicted about why he was put here on this planet. And he always believed that it was for a great cause. I'm one who believes that, nothing happens for no reason. Everything happens for a reason, and God has plans for everyone. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Elvis, God had a plan for. His life story is the perfect story. From rags to riches, but it's the perfect arc. But, again, this film captures the humanity of this man. We forget that so many times. And he had such an impact on so many different areas in life, of society. I don't think he ever knew what it would turn into. And it has become its own entity. I mean, this is 2022. He's more famous now than he's ever been with this film. Even more. Graceland is one of the most famous visited places ever. If you go into the White House archives, the most viewed picture is not a picture of George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Barack Obama, Donald Trump. The most famous artifact is the picture of Elvis and Nixon. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss of words. This is a piece that did Elvis justice. It's about time. And my hat off to Baz Luhrmann and everybody involved in that film, because it had to be hard. What a journey. The movie's a journey. Sit back, relax. It's sort of like watching, if you saw Great Gatsby. It's similar to that in terms of the wonderful colors, the wonderful outfits, the brightness at certain points, the way the lighting. That's another. Everybody in that film deserves an Academy Award. The visual effects, they're amazing. They're amazing. I don't know what you call it. I don't really know if it's a biopic pick. I don't. It's not a musical. It's all these things. I hit my mic 3 times. You believe this shit? It's all these things wrapped into one, dedicated to the king. I think it's a dedication. Just from the opening scenes, and I'm not ruining anything, but the opening, that Elvis name, the EP, the TCB, they captured every aspect. 4 times I hit the mic. They captured every aspect of the man. Again, it's taken me a while to really kind of just wrap my mind around it, man. I woke up this morning with so many songs in my head, so many thoughts in my head. I can't emphasize enough how powerful of a film that is. And it's things like it's films like that you want to see, that keep your mind going. You know, we see so many films so many times, and like that, we get it. Overdone with, okay, great, I get it. But there are movies that, again, like I said before in the beginning, that resonate with you for a while. And then when you see them again, they resonate with you. And then when you see them somewhere down the line, years later, they resonate with you. And then 20 years and 30 years, they're timeless. And there's only so many I could think of. And like I already mentioned, True Romance, Gangs of New York, No Country for Old Men, The Wrestler, The Pope of Greenwich Village, Tombstone for me. So many for me, because I have so many favorites, man, for so many different reasons. The Dirty Dozen, West Side Story. Talking masterpieces here in my mind. The Usual Suspects, Taxi Driver, King of New York. I mean, there are so many that resonate with you. Every time you see them, you pick out something new that you love. This film is that. This film is that, man. I also love the fact that Miss Priscilla gave it the thumbs up. Lisa Marie gave it the thumbs up. The great actress Riley Keough, Elvis's granddaughter, gave it the thumbs up. The great Jerry Schilling. It must have been so important for them to finally see something that Elvis would have been proud of, or that they were proud of, and that all Elvis fans will be proud of. When you're, and I don't just say this, when you're an Elvis fan, you're special, because there's something you're part of this special group that knows something that some people just aren't aware of. And I'm not just trying to say that and sound hackneyed or corny, because I'm a humongous Elvis fan, but it's the truth, man. You know something that just is. And seeing this film brought that all out onto the big screen for almost 3 hours. And I'll keep saying it, it's about time. I don't know what the holdup has been. I don't know what has gone on. I just know that finally somebody had the courage to get this right. And when I say somebody, I mean that 5 times I hit the mic. From director to actors to the crew. I mean, it's exactly what we needed. It's exactly what the world needed. And it shows why people love him most. It shows why he's the greatest. You can't argue with that. There's no argument. Okay? You can have your favorites. God bless everybody who likes who they like. But when it comes to the ultimate, the game changer, the innovator, the rebel, the badass, the one and only. It's Elvis, man. It's the king. You know, the trendsetter. It's him, man. This movie's got it all. I think it's going to smash at the box office. I think it's going to be one of those movies we see out all summer long, all the way till August, maybe September. Definitely till August, because I think that obviously his anniversary of his unfortunate death, although he never died, is, it should still be out. And it's so rare that we get to see movies that stay out that long in theaters, the way things have changed. But even when this movie comes to the streaming networks, it's going to be a game changer. And I was thinking, speaking to my father today, we also have our other podcast, by the way, The Old Timer and the Punk, which is our podcast about our love for all music from the 50s and 60s. And I'm more of just a sidekick on that show, because I get to talk with and hang out more with my best friend, who's my dad. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know anything about Elvis and music, and my older brother, of course. But we're going to talk about that on our podcast as well. But I thought of something when I spoke to him today. I said, I see some people who were a little bit critical of the fact that they left some elements of this film or Elvis's life out of this film, and I can understand that. But again, you have to remember, you're trying to fit all the elements of this wonderful man's life into a certain amount of time. Perhaps, even with the 4-hour cut that will get released eventually, this could lead to a potential TV series. And well, so. You can never have too much of Elvis. There are so many different aspects of this man's life. It's almost as if he lived several different lives. And the thing about Elvis we have to remember is that he reinvented himself with so many different images. Remember, there's that 50s Elvis, that up-and-coming 50s Elvis, That's All Right Mama, Hound Dog. There's Heartbreak Hotel. And then there's the Army Elvis, right, where him serving in Germany for 2 years. And then there's Elvis in the movies. And then there's the comeback, 68, in black, looking badass as all badass. And then there's the 70s Elvis on stage, kicking ass in Vegas. So there are so many different aspects to this man's life that it never gets old to keep making TV series and movies and whatnot all about him. And again, when we talk about Elvis's life, the tree, the things, the branches that reach out that are attached to certain things, the Memphis Mafia, who's captured in this movie. I don't want to say briefly, but they're captured in this movie, thank God. And when I say the Memphis Mafia, for those who don't know, obviously, those involved in the Memphis Mafia were Elvis's closest friends / bodyguard, workers, and confidants. And I'm talking about, of course, the great Red and Sonny West, Dave Hebler, Diamond Joe, so many others who were part of that intricate group. You have that part. I mean, you could make your own series or movie based just on the Memphis Mafia, because they were so interesting and amazing. And there's a wonderful book out there called Elvis and the Memphis Mafia. It's probably one of the best books I've ever read about the king, because it's his, inner circle capturing things that went on. I have it in my my library, my Elvis library up there. It's one of the best books I've ever read. You can make a series out of that. You can make a film out of that, out of their life story, because all their life stories are very interesting. You could have your own film or life or whatever based on the Colonel Tom Parker, because let's face it, before Elvis he was working with Hank Snow and whatnot, and before that he was a carny in a carnival, and he has that very interesting story. Even the wonderful Miss Priscilla and her life, pre-Elvis, during the time she was married to him, and after. I mean, she became a very, very wonderful, famous actress. even the great Lisa Marie. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You know, the Elvis tree just stems all over, man. The style. So this film could be a seed for just a wonderful garden of everything Elvis. You could plant me right in that garden, and I won't have to move for the rest of my life. I'm all good. I would even like to see something on the, you can make a movie or a TV series based on more of a movie. They did have a TV series, I believe, not too long ago. There was a play, too, of course. And based on, I said they had that wonderful TV series based on Elvis, but they also had a TV series based on Million Dollar Quartet, which, of course, was the meeting at Sun Records of Elvis, Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and of course the great Johnny Cash, which the great Sam Phillips did record. And you can actually YouTube the songs recorded that day. It's a phenomenal jam session. So again, the Elvis tree just is so wide and beautiful. So I hope that this film, and I know everyone's going to love it. I hope that this film spawns so many different Elvis projects. I know that there's an Elvis cartoon coming out to Netflix, which I can't wait for, which he's going to be portraying like a secret agent, which is kind of cool. There's I think do I have it here? Yes, I do. I got this for a birthday gift, I believe. It was either a birthday gift or Christmas. Oh no, this is the Johnny Cash thing. My other favorite. I got it as I think one of those two. I can't seem to find it right now, but it's basically a graphic novel based on Elvis's life, which is phenomenal. And I also received this from my sister and my brother when they went to the Music Hall of Fame. That most famous picture of the king. Like I said, man, I cried 4 or 5 times. There were certain things in that film that just hit me hard, man. The ending is absolutely lights out. You're going to love the ending of the film. I mean, the journey, the way it starts and the way it ends, it's a trip. It's an emotional trip too. That's why it'll really take a toll on you, especially if you're an Elvis fan. Don't waste any more time, man. Friday it comes out in theaters. Go see this. Go see this with your loved ones. Go see it with your kids if you have them. Bring your pets too. Never hurts. Because dogs and cats should be allowed in theaters too. But it's going to just, again, it pays homage. It does justice. It's the closest thing we have to the king. There's Elvis, and there's all this back here, and this is right here. That's how good it was. And again, my hat off to Austin Butler. You did a phenomenal job, brother. You did your homework. Elvis fans, you'll pick up on what I'm talking about. Look for the details, the small details. Baz Luhrmann, as usual, you killed it with your great visual, artistic style. You destroyed it. Tom Hanks, as always, I mean, Tom Hanks is so damn good. You did a great job of portraying Colonel Tom Parker. You did a great job of portraying a villain in a human body and humanizing him, which was very important to me because doing all the reading and research I've done on Colonel Tom, he always, again, seems like this bigger-than-life personality, and you did a wonderful job of humanizing him and bringing him to life. And again, just my hat off to everybody involved, man. I can't wait to see the movie again. It was such an emotional experience and such a ride for me, man. I've been waiting for so long for this film to come out. As it got closer and closer, I was mega nervous. I mean, I had 2 different Elvis shirts that I didn't know what to pick from last night. Thank God for my sister Liz, who told me which one to go with. It was either going to be Karate Elvis from the 70s or the picture of him in the Army when he posed for a mugshot. I went with mugshot Elvis. And then, of course, I've been wearing this one all day. That's that famous mock mugshot he took when he was at the White House. So, what a ride, man. I want to give a special shout out to my brother Mufuchi, who was the one who inspired me to do this review. So I'm going to upload this now and shoot it out. And I hope you dug this review. I hope you all go see the movie. And for those of you that were never familiar with Elvis, do me a favor. Take the time, get involved, and get familiar with him. Because, again, this film really captures what an important aspect he had on not just music, but society and the world. Peace. The beast is out.